right. Well, thanks again to everyone for joining us today for our webinar, Digital Learning Design Strategies. Again, I want to wish all of you a very happy Teacher Appreciation Day. We're glad that you're spending some time with us, and we just want to thank all of you for all you've done this year to support your students. You truly are all superheroes. And speaking of superheroes, it is Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. So we have lots to celebrate today, and I couldn't be more excited to celebrate all of this with Martine Cisneros, who is going to join us and share that digital learning toolkit with us here momentarily. Today's webinar is brought to you by NetRef, a classroom management tool that helps educators keep students focused on learning and maximize their ed tech investment. So I'm going to switch gears now and tell you a little bit about Martine Cisneros, who's been waiting so patiently here on camera with you. Martine is a modern learning advisor, a speaker, a geek dad, a tech Jedi, a super mariachi, and a director of technology from Silicon Valley. In his current position in California, he provides strategic leadership in anticipating and developing appropriate and innovative systems to future needs and challenges regarding the district's information technology program and blended learning in the workplace and classroom. Martine has more than 25 years' experience teaching students and professionals at all levels, including elementary, secondary, and higher education, and has a master's degree in educational leadership. He was named the California Association of Latino Superintendents and Administrators Administrator of the Year in 2020, which is a really wonderful accomplishment. We are honored to have Martine here with us today and are excited to hear all of the tools and resources you've got to share. So are you ready to take it away?
Let's do this. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all. I love seeing that we have people from every different location. So welcome to my galaxy. Yes, I'm in my Star Wars gear because today is May the 4th. And so a little bit of, thank you for the intro. And I definitely want to thank NetRef, and EdWeb for giving me this opportunity. So I like to tell people just a really quick about me. 25 years in the wonderful world of education. Started teaching started teaching with technology before we had the internet. So I like to say that to the kids nowadays, right? I started teaching, in the late 1900s, and technology has always been my hook for learning with kids. And just to give you a spectrum of what I have and have not taught, I just going to tell you what I have not taught. I have not taught first, second, 7th, 10th, and 11th, and I've taught everything else, including university and adults in my last career, right? So here are a few things that we're going to be discussing as we go along. How is distance learning working for everyone? How do we continue to engage our students, whether you are still in the full-blown distance learning, whether your kids have come back and you're now doing the blended learning, or what the future is going to look like. We're going to talk about, some design strategies that, we've accumulated over the years. And I say we, it's not only myself, but, my PLN is pretty large with wide ranging from folks from all over that I have met over the years. And we're going to talk about how do you develop digital scaffolds and how do you provide learning toolbox, not only for your students, but for your colleagues, and if you're leadership, for your parents as well. So let's start off by doing this, right? For a lot of us, whether you are already into educational technology and learning about how to do blended learning, for a lot of us, distance learning really took a different twist for us, right? And for the most people in my team, this is how it felt. It was an extension of what you were doing already in the classroom, but it was at the same time a little different, right? And for those of you who had seen people not get on the technology bandwagon yet, there was a lot of transformation that happened. So all of our teachers got some taste of what that looked like for them, and this was part of that result. And then this started to happen, right? So, that famous March 13th of 2020 happened, and a lot of things started changing for a lot of our educators in the classroom, because if you're looking at the slide, you're looking at the meme on top, and that's what it looked like when kids wouldn't show up to school, right? When for whatever reason, they would skip class. And then skipping class meant something completely different by March, right? Because what people were doing, and it doesn't matter what platform you were using, they were turning off their microphone, they were turning off their camera, and a lot of teachers just kept on wondering, how do I get them back? And then of course there was our parents, right? Because not only were you thrown into a place you've never been, for many of our parents, we were telling them, go here, download this. Your kid needs to find their information here and upload it to this type of program. So there was a lot of learning from everyone over the past year. But I'm here for you because this is Teachers Appreciation Week, and I so do appreciate all the things that you do in the classroom for us, right? And most of you were thrown through, like it says here, 333 different recommendations from everyone, right? Your mail person was telling you about ed tech tools. The person where you're buying your groceries. The people at the gas station, right? Everywhere you went, people were saying, "Oh, try this tool," and it was just overwhelming for a lot of folks. But something that I kept on thinking about is one of my favorite quotes by Charlie Munger here is, those who keep learning will keep rising in life, right? And a lot of us, by the way, this is what we do. This is what we do on a daily basis. So first and foremost, I want to congratulate everyone for surviving 2020, because the way I see it, doesn't matter how many years in education you've been in education, it was all of our first year back again in education. And it was just mind blowing to see, especially in my district, where kids were coming back or coming to school for the very first time ever in a physical school. Think about our kindergartners from last year, right? They're becoming our first graders, and it's the first time that they've been on a school set, and pre-K kids as well. And it made me realize once again is, what do we mean by schooling now, because school changed for a lot of our kids, right? And I always went back to, well, how do we build agency, right? For me, I have a history with working with English language learners, multilingual learners, special needs kids, and pretty much different variations throughout. And the thing that I made the connection over the past 2 decades is, how are we building agency, and what do I mean by agency? Because that's one of the problems that we have now is everyone speaking the same language. So if you're looking at the slide deck, you see this is what I consider the definition of agency, is the ability of a student to display a growth mindset and grit about their ownership about how they learn. And how we learn is completely different, and it evolves over time, right? Um, by the way, this is a real shot of my kiddo. I call him my 2012 model. Over here, I have my 1996 model. This is my daughter, right? So my daughter also, when I think about my own personal kids and the kids that I work with as well, I strongly believe in student voice. I strongly believe that they need to be active learners, right? Not just passive learners. And we're each at a different level in that, in all of our institutions across the globe. So I'm going to give you my first model here, and my first model is my 1996 model, which is my kid, and the differences between my firstborn and my lastborn that you see here. And I see agency as two components, right? One, the kid that already throughout time knows himself or herself as a learner and knows what they need in order to move over to that next level, right? We then have our learners who are learning how to explain a lot of the information that they are receiving from school. Is how do they interpret that knowledge, and how do they create modern knowledge? How do they take that information and apply it, right? And we heard this from different speakers throughout the past year. As educators, when we were kids, we were always asked the question, hi, Martin, when you grow up, what do you want to be? And most of us,
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
All right, that was my punch. And a lot of us, would ask her about, stuff that was already existing, right? I want to be a doctor. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a nurse. I want to be, and except for me, I always used to say I want to be an X-wing fighter pilot. But anyways, I can now in virtual reality. But the reason why I'm saying this is because in today's world, the question we need to be asking from a lot of our kids is not what you want to be when you grow up, but what problem do you want to solve? And then after telling them that, and whatever their answer is showing them the tools about how to use that information and applying it to solve real world problems. And that's how I see agency fitting into this component. And I get this all the time. Is everywhere I go is, Martin, how do you build it? Is it a tool? Is it a curriculum? And no, it's something I say. It's something that you build over time, right? So how do we do it? And when I first started thinking about this, I first started thinking about this way back when I first began teaching. And I just started, using technology on top of it as time went on. But I basically started thinking about scaffolding and working with English language learners quite a bit. I always found different ways of scaffolding information because I used to think to myself, what information do my students need in order to be successful when they leave my classroom that day, that week, that month, or that year, right? And there's a lot of components that go into it. But then I started to develop these things called toolboxes because then I started thinking, well, not only do students need these toolboxes, right, but who else needs them? Oh, our teachers need them, my colleagues, right, our staff, our para educators, or our other educators that work with our students who are not the main teacher. And let's not forget our other leg, our parents, right? And I've taken the opportunity over the past few years to develop these toolboxes or these strategies, and now what has evolved to I call these now modern learning toolkits, right? And they came from the whole cycles of learning, right? From explore, explain, and apply. I got this from cyclesoflearning.com from Ramsey Masalam, and it made me really realize about how are we providing multiple pathways of learning, right? And what I mean by multiple pathways, like it says here on the slide, how are we providing different levels, different place, pace, path, and time? A lot of that we got to experience because of synchronous and asynchronous learning during this past year. And so it made me realize, like, wow, we need a, we need, once again, we're caught in this middle, right? We're creating change agents at this moment. So what are the type of toolkits that they can use? So I always tell myself, well, you must explicitly teach the skills that you want them to learn. So the first thing I thought about is like, well, I'm going to call these learning hooks, right? I'm going to call these learning hooks, and I'm going to teach. The story that I have is, it was 1998, and I was teaching, I believe, fifth grade or sixth grade at that moment. And I remember, I can't remember what led up to it, but I remember a student asking Mr. Cisneros, "How do you learn?" And I go, "What do you mean? How do I learn?" He goes, "Yeah, how do you learn? How do you learn things?" And I just thought, okay, I'm going to just give an example about how I learn. And what I thought was going to be a 10-minute, a mini lecture became, one of the biggest things that I've ever did in my career, because it went from that to, kids, and then parents started asking the same things. And then it evolved from there. And like everything else, ladies and gentlemen, tools evolved over time, and I used the tools what we needed for during that time. But what I'm about to show you is just a sample taste about what learning hooks are, right? Because many of us are using a variety of different tools, but once again, it's the great example I always give to people is when I was teaching fifth, sixth, and fifth grade on up to middle school, and even in high school on certain occasions, I would ask students, let's pull out this graphic organizer, and I remember having a conversation with a colleague of mine, and then her telling me, goes, "Don't you hate it when students don't know how to use graphic organizers?" And I told her, I go, "Look, I go, today I found out that 90% of my kids were always given organizers, but they were never taught how to use them." Right. So in my head, it's like, it's one of those big ahas for me. So I always involve this. So I always have these boot camp training at the beginning of every school year about how does Mr. Cisneros learn? What are some tips of how do you learn? And I would do this, back to school night. I would do this for my other teachers and so forth. And now I call these learning hooks, right? And I'm going to give you an example. Many of you are using YouTube for some type of instruction in your classroom. But I'm going to give you an example about how to teach kids how to use these wonderful tools. So check this out. If I click on YouTube, some of you old enough might remember this.
Come from the air you breathe at work, but thanks to the American Lung Association, you can breathe a little easier. They're working to fight all this lung disease. Your lungs are a miracle. Take care of your lungs. They're only human. And if my lungs weren't in great shape, I couldn't have said all this.
The reason. Now, I laugh because that when I was a kid, this guy used to come out in these wonderful commercials, right? Yes, Brenda, blast from the past. And he was like, I guess, the fastest talker in the world, and he would make all these wonderful commercials. But sometimes our students think we speak that fast, or whatever they're viewing is going that fast. So here's a little tip for you.
Trouble can come from the
So when you're in YouTube, if you go down here to the settings and click on the settings, you have a playback speed. So I'm going to click on where it says normal, and I'm just going to move it down. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen, you can either slow down or speed up YouTube videos. So I'm going to click on the 0.75 and look at how he speaks now.
Air you breathe at work, but thanks to the American Lung Association, you can breathe a little easier. They're working to fight all this lung disease. Your lungs are a miracle. Take care of your lungs. They're only human. And if my lungs weren't in great shape, I couldn't have said all this.
The reason why I think this is right, he was now, you can now understand him a little bit better. But this goes for podcasts, this goes for anything video or audio that people are using. I've gotten to the point where, like I said, you can do this on podcasts. And what I do is I have a minimum of a 1 hour commute to and from work all the time. So this is how I learn. I take that time in my commute to turn it into a professional learning experience for myself. So what I do is I make every podcast go 1.5 the regular time rate. And what that means is I go through a lot more content. I go through audiobooks a lot quicker. And I have friends who go a lot faster, but also for those of you who are thinking, no, you're going the wrong way. Yes, you can also teach your students to do what I just finished doing here on the YouTube video and reverse it and make it slower. So if they are learning a new language or they're having difficulty learning how to read, these are some techniques that you can use, right? So the other component is closed captioning. Now, Emily mentioned at the beginning of our session today that in 2 weeks, this video will have closed captionings. But what I'm using right now, I'm using a Google slide deck, by the way. And some people don't know that this exists. But if we're talking about closed captioning and Google Slides, if it's your slide and you're in presentation mode like I am, you go down here at the bottom and you can go down here where it says closed captioning preference, and you can go ahead and turn it on. Now, as I'm speaking, what are you seeing? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, you are seeing live captioning at the top of my slide. And you have the ability to move the closed captioning either at the top of your slide, at the bottom of your slide. And the reason why this, I haven't used this for quite a bit, but the reason I started teaching this to my teachers in my current district lately is because when we went to distance learning, as an educator, when the kids are in your classroom, you know what the environment is because you set the environment. When the kids are at home, you might have had an opportunity to visit their homes, but for many of you, you have not visited their homes. So you don't know what's going on. There might be a lot of noise and the kids might not be able to understand you or hear you very well, right? This is just another way of students understanding the content that you're providing for them. And I know what some of you are thinking right now, but Martin, I don't have a full blown deck like you do. You don't have to. You don't have to. You could just put up a slide and put the main topic or the main question or the main theme that you're talking about, put it on presentation mode, and then hit the closed captioning at the bottom. So that's another trick, of course. And then, of course, you can do this on your deck down here. You can do this also on YouTube, right? You can use the closed captioning if you are putting that on a video. Now, the other, there's many components, but I always tell people, teach people how to learn, even with tools that you might think, oh, they might not need to learn how to use. So I'm going to give you another example. I wish I could see your hands, but I'm going to ask you this, right? How many of you have ever used Google Translate? So yes, I see a yes. Thank you, Sarah. Yes, Kathy. Okay, Dina, thank you. All right, many of you, right? So I'm going to show you something. So on my desktop now, you see my phone. So what I like is, like I said, I worked a lot with English language learners, but this only happens on the mobile, not on the website. So take a look at this. I'm going to hit the translate. And at the very top, I have, I choose the 2 languages. I have English, I have Spanish, but you can pretty much grab whatever other language you want. And then I like the camera feature, right? So in the camera feature, I can do this, right? I can see you can see my lunch there and everything else that you have. So this is my cockpit, but look at this. I'm going to go to, I have a little note that my kiddo wrote for me a few months back, but I want to show you something. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. In real life, it'll automatically change or translate the text for you, right? If I go up to my screen here, guess what it's doing? It'll translate that as well. So these are little things that, yes. So some of you are saying, wow, that's great. And guess what? This is free 99, ladies and gentlemen. This is free 99. What I mean by free 99, that means you just need to download the app. That's it, right? The other part is the conversation tool. So let's just say, I know, wait, before I do that, let me do the following. I know a lot of you are having new folks coming into your area, and you might not have all the resources, and you think, oh, how am I going to communicate with this new community who's coming over, but I don't speak the language? Check this out, right? So I'm going to hit conversation. And first of all, I'm going to turn up my volume a little bit. And on the conversation, you can have a full conversation. Hola, maestro. ¿Cómo está?
Hi, teacher. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Haciendo bien. Estoy haciendo.
Maestro, ¿en dónde está la oficina?
Teacher, where is the office?
Oh, it's down the hall to your right.
¿Está al final del pasillo a su derecha?
Right. Anyways, you get the idea. The way I see this, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a huge nerd myself. Like I said, I love Star Wars, but I also love Star Trek. And you remember, for those of you who are Star Trek fans, that little device that they would always carry, that they can speak to any alien. Well, you can now do this on your phone for free 99 as the Google Translate. But it gets even better, ladies and gentlemen, because check this out. You can also write here, right? But even my chicken scratch, if I write here, it will automatically translate it and it can speak it out for you. So it has, and it's not only Google, Microsoft has a really good one as well. But I wanted to show you these tools because, once again, these are all learning hacks that our kids should know about, right? One of the other ones is, one of my favorite loves is note taking, right? Once again, I told you the story about graphic designs, but something like using like auto draw, right? If you're new to auto draw, let me show you something. So I'm gonna draw something. I'm just laughing at the comments, by the way. I'm gonna draw something, and on the chat, I want you to type in what you think I'm drawing. Y'all ready? Check this out. Tell me what you think I'm drawing. Waves, ocean, water, sea, clouds, crown, diamonds, iceberg. Yeah, some of you guessed it, right? Bam! Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! If you had no idea what I did, I'm going to show you what I'm doing. So this is auto draw, right? This is one of those wonderful Google experiments where they're using artificial intelligence, because I get this all the time, right? If you walk into the classroom, Dina, I love the emoji, by the way. If you go into the classroom and let's just say you go into a kindergarten, you go into the kindergarten classroom and they don't know you, and they say, and you tell those kids, you stop them, in their tracks, and you ask them, how many of you are geniuses? Right? There's like, you'll see like this bright light like this. Ready? Oh, did they turn on? Oh, there we go. So you'll see all these hands, and you'll see this glow come from the kids, and they 99.9% of those kids are going to tell you, I'm a genius. And you'll see that one kid in the back of the classroom that's going to start looking at you like, bro, you don't even know how I can tie my shoes, right? Kids, when they're younger, they own their genius. As you ask that question going up the ladder amongst the grade, they get less and less skeptical about their abilities, and drawing and for me, sketchnoting is a huge a component of now building a toolkit, right? Because I can remember if I do these doodles 2 years from now about what I was learning versus just doing regular notes on my computer. So, but you're going to get this all the time. Oh, Mr. Cisneros, but I don't know how to draw, right? I don't know how to do this. This is where autodraw.com. By the way, you'll get my slide deck at the end of today's session, and I'm also going to put it up on my Twitter site or my website as well, and we'll put that information later on. But I'm going to show you again. So if you're not good to drawing, I'm going to do this again, but I want you to see what I'm doing. As soon as I draw anything, look at what happens up here at the very top, right? Google is now trying to decide, oh, you're trying to draw, a mouth, lips, a shirt, right? And the more squiggles I do here, the more it's trying to guess, right? And it's like, oh, you're trying to draw a diamond, right? And what I love about this is kids can now tell different stories, or they can create their own notes, right? And there's a variety of different things. So I love auto draw, and this is great for the older kiddos. For the young ones, right? For the young ones, I always love to connect music and art with it. So I did this with my little guy. So when my little guy was very, very little, like 2.5, 3, I showed him how to do this on our iPad. This is called Kadinsky. And we were so much into butterflies at that time. So I started to teach him how to do this. And have you ever seen anything play back whatever you have drawn? If the answer is no, you were 2 days years old when it happened. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, the amount of time you're going to spend just on this one. Right? There are so many experiments. So Chrome Music Lab, it's part of this, but it's also a way of teaching science and art and literature all at the same time, right? So once again, these are all different stuff. Now, unfortunately, I don't have time to go through each and every one of them because of time, and I do want to move forward, but I do want to let you know that when you do get my slide deck, you just need to click on these things and they'll take you directly to the resources that I'm sharing with you at this moment. All right. So the other thing I do want to connect with everyone today is, this whole notion of curation, because unfortunately, however you want to see it, is I tell people, we're not just educators, we're not just teachers, and we should never say that, by the way. We have always been more than that. But the biggest part of our job now is curation, because there's just so much stuff out there. And the question then becomes, the question I get all the time from everywhere is, Martin, how do we choose the right tool or what we're doing in the classroom? So the first thing I said is, what's the student activity? What do you want your students to do? And take it from there. But people say, well, how do you find all these different tools? How do you do that? So once again, I'm going to teach you how I learn. So we are going to go fishing, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. We're going to go fishing, and let me go back to this one. Oh, I'm now jumping out everywhere. So there we are. So I'm going to show you how to fish for EdTech tools for what your students need. And one of the sites that I use is EdTech Teacher. I love EdTech Teacher. I've been using these guys for quite a bit. And at the very top, they have this place where it says what we recommend. So I'm going to click on what we recommend, and I'm going to go into App and Tech Tool Guide. So now it brings me down here and it says, Martin, what do you want? What's the learning objective? What is it that you want your students to do? So I'm going to say, well, I want my students to, you might say, oh, I want them to collaborate. Oh, you can say, okay. And then what do your students have? Oh, well, we use Chromebooks and we also have iPads. I'm like, okay, what's the grade level? Oh, we're doing middle school, so it's 5-8, right? So whatever it is. And as I'm clicking away here, by the way, down here at the bottom, you are now looking at different recommendations that they have, right? You have the recommendations, you have the type of devices, you have the grade level, the ease of use, the description of the app. You can print them, you can download them as an Excel spreadsheet, CSV, PDF, and you can also learn more about them. So what I always do is I always go for the easy breezy ones, right? I always goes like, oh, so actually the first thing I do is I first check, do they have it for both devices, iPad and Chrome? Yes. The next thing is it for my grade level? Yes. Next thing is the easy breezy. I always go for the easy breezy, right? Yes, Brenda, I just saw that. Anyway, so this is how, I tell people, if you're brand new, if you are still having a hard time of learning how to curate tools for for what you're trying to teach, I always go here to the learning objective and what is it that you want your students to be able to do. Record and edit audio, right? There's a variety of different things, and you're going to see the variety of tools that pop up. So EdTech Teacher is one of those wonderful resources that I use, that I teach people how to go fishing, because they're vetted. They do a really good job of using some very popular tools. And then, of course, you also have the ability to see whether they're free 99 or if it's a freemium. What's the difference between free 99 and a freemium, you might ask? Where a free 99 is where I stated before, it's a free tool. It's just, the time it takes you to download and learn how to use the tool. The freemium is where they give you the tool for free up to a certain level, a certain amount of time, and then you have to pay for it. So, and there's different budgets for different folks throughout. These are some other research tools that I use as well for going fishing. ISTE's EdTech Advisor, there's EdShelf as well. And then, of course, definitely Common Sense Media is another great place that I go to. All right, folks. So let's talk about a particular modern teacher toolkit that I love to use with everyone. Like before, this is something that was born out of, once again, my students asking for feedback about how to learn on certain things. And for me, is I always would use technology as my hook. Is like, how can I hook my students to want to go deeper about this topic? And this is one of the things that I learned about, is like, most of us, you and I, learned how to read by, a regular analog book. And this past year was one of the first times in our history that many of our kids learned how to read by a screen, right? And it's something that it's not going to go away. It's something that that is going to continue. So, I learned different things about how do we teach people about reading the internet. So the first thing I always go to, right, I have this article, and this happens to all of us, right? We go out, we find an article that we really, really want to use, and we're doing what we're doing now. We're showcasing either at home with at home, oh good Lord, in our classroom on a projector, or like this through distance learning. And you're trying to tell, you're trying to tell your students, I found this wonderful article about human algorithm and winning combination. And all your kids can think about is, what is this guy texting at the very top, right? Do business where business is done. And they're like, what does that mean? Oh, Purell. In other words, they're thinking about pretty much everything except what is on their, except for the content. So, I started to use a lot. We use Google Chrome in our district, and I started to learn about all these wonderful things called extensions, right? So there's these mini applications that we use. And one of the ones that I started to use quite a bit is this one called Immersive Reader. So the first thing I'm going to show you, for those of you who are new to extensions, is extensions are, like I said, these mini applications, which either my site is down, and let's see. All right, there we go. And what they do is they allow you to do these small extra things on your web browser, right? So what I'm going to show you is how do these tools allow our students how to read the internet a little bit better. So the first one is this one. And for me, when I look at this, it's like, yes, I already paid my taxes. But once again, everyone's eyes goes to everywhere except for the content. So the first thing I do is, once I install Immersive Reader, by the way, for those of you who are new to extensions, once you have installed it, they're going to live up here right next to your, I believe they still call this the Omni bar, right? Your search bar up here, your URL bar, and you're going to see like a little rocket. I know my theme is black, so you can barely see it, but I have a little rocket up here. And as soon as I click it, here's what it does. It automagically, that's a new word, by the way, automagically. It automagically takes all that away, right? It takes all that away. And then, of course, it makes the font bigger. And there's a few things that you can do with it, right? So you can make the text size small, but I like to go big or go home because I always thinking about my students. My students are probably watching this either on a mobile device, or they're probably watching it on a Chromebook that's 13 inches. And then you can mess with the typography. I wish I had more time. I can go into it, and then you can have the light theme or the dark theme. I'm going to tell you why you want to go to the dark side when you are on a line. Why? Because it saves your eyes, right? Which most of us now are on the screens for a long period of time. Not only that, but it saves your battery life as well for your machine, but it's really better for your eyes. And this wonderful group also uses a wonderful font. So if you have students who are dyslexic, this is a better read for them. So many cool combinations of why we want to do this, right? The next one is Crafty 184. So the first question I ask folks is, do we know what reading level this is? I'm just going to zoom in a little bit so you can see it. On the chat, can you quickly tell me what reading level you think this is? Daria, 8th grade, 11th grade. I see 5th grade. Okay, 9th grade. 5th grade, 10th grade. Okay. And I have no idea how you're measuring that, right? But there's this wonderful tool that I use called Crafty Level, and it's from Crafty 184. And what Crafty Level what Crafty Level does is how you use the tool is you highlight, and for this, I'm going to highlight the whole paragraph. I mean, the whole article. And then I have my little CL up here. I click on it, and I know it's hard to see, but I'm going to tell you in that little red mark, it tells me it's on the 11th grade, right? So this is pretty darn cool, and it uses the Flesch Kincaid grade level. So yeah. So this is pretty interesting because I find this quite a bit. Sometimes teachers find a lot of great information, but they don't know whether or not their students might be able to comprehend the information. This is one way of finding out. So I know what you're thinking next is, Martin, this is great. It's 11th grade, but I'm teaching middle school and I really want to use it. And this is where another favorite tool of mine comes on board, which is called TLDR, which I thought, someone did an app made just for me when I was in college. Too lazy, didn't read. Right? Yes, Daria, it works on pretty much everything. So I then go up here and then I for some reason I uninstalled it. I don't know why I did it, but I did. But I'm going to show you my big brother to TLDR, which is called Resumer. And Resumer, oh good Lord, I need to fix that. Resumer does pretty much the same thing, but it takes it to the next level where it chunks the information. So we already know this is an 11th grade article, and I'm going to click on my Resumer up here. Oh no, that's not. Did I just uninstall a variety of different things? Of course I would. Okay, let's just go to and install it. Web store. It's not showing up. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got to see what's going on. I just won't have the ability to show you for right now. Try one more time. If I have it in my other. Okay. For some reason, have it. Well, what I can tell you is it's a way of chunking information. That's all I can tell you. And I apologize, but excuse me. Anyway, I will make sure that I will update the links on this slide deck so we get to the right one. All right. So what are some other nifty things? Well, once again, I talk about teaching kids how to read. And like I said before, when I found the study from Stanford about how reading a book or actually listening to the book is no difference. It's just your preference. I was like, yay, because I consume a lot of text to audio. One of my favorite tools is Immersive Reader. And Immersive Reader allows you to do a variety of things to a website. So I'm going to give you an example. So I'm going to go up here. I'm going to highlight this, do a right click, and it's going to say, help me how to read, or help me read this. I'm going to click on that. And it turns this whole paragraph, right, or this whole article, and I could do a variety of things with it. I can play it back.
I recently shared my top predictions for the retail industry in
I can also change the speed, just like we did with YouTube and with audio, so we can do that. We can also change the text preference, right? We can make this larger or smaller since we're reading on digital devices. We can change the font, we can change the theme. And like I said before, always go to the dark side. It's really good for a variety of different reasons. But look at this, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you're teaching littles, you can also highlight, you can also highlight parts of speech along with it. And then you can also translate, which is pretty darn slick. And I'm gonna hit Spanish. And what I like about it is you can do it by word, you can do it by document, and you can also.
Recientemente compartí mis principales predicciones para.
That's right. You can now change pretty much anything on the web into an audiobook, into any language. So that is pretty darn slick, right? So it helps with struggling readers. It helps with, even regular readers if they just want to listen to it versus reading it. And it's just a different way of consuming information. The last thing I'm going to leave you with is Read and Write, which is one of my favorite tools. And there are Read and Write gives this tool out for free completely for all teachers. On their site, you can sign up and you can get this for free. But here's what I ended up doing, right? And you can do this with anything on the website, with any website or any information you find on a website. What I ended up doing was I downloaded this article. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go ahead and install my Read and Write here. You get this navigation up on top, and it does a variety of different things. So if I hit the word farmers, I can click on my, my picture dictionary, so you have an idea. It reads it back to you. But one of my favorite things about this is, once again, I can take this whole article, and there's this button up here that says Audio Maker, and I click on it. And what it does, in a few seconds, it will download an MP3. And just so you can hear it, I'm going to show in Finder, and I'm going to play it for you.
Violin Jokos and Mary McDougall favorite experiences 2018 Century.
Oh, and I had it in Spanish, by the way, but you can of course use it in whatever different language. So I love this. But the coolest thing that I have for it is I went through here, I highlighted the words that I thought my students might have trouble with, and I click on this wonderful bar up here that says vocabulary, and I said, "Look, Ma, no hands, right? No hands." And in a few seconds, what it does, it takes those words and it does a vocabulary list, right? Look at that. It gives you the word, it gives you the meaning, it gives you the symbol, and a place for students to write their own notes. Better yet, right? If the student says it helps with all farming, right? They'll give you just a basic response. You can go up here, click on this wonderful button, and leave a voice note. Hi, Martin. That was a great start, but can you go a little deeper into what do you mean by helping all farmers? And then you insert it. Give it a few seconds. A few more. I know we're running out of time here. And what it should do, there we go. So it takes that, and you can now leave voice notes to all of your students, right? You can leave voice notes. So we are running out of time here. So want to leave you with that. And once again, this is Read and Write, and make sure you go out and get it. So what I want to leave you with is all these, of course, is building agency is a way to build and increase student voice. And I know a lot of you can probably build your own toolboxes, right? One of the things I love this from Dave Burgess, right? And this quote is the willingness to relentlessly search for what engages students, right? That's where my head is at all time. And I get this all the time. Well, Martino, well, how do we get, you said it in the beginning of this, how do we get students to work on real life problems? And I go, well, find out about their passion, find out about their purpose. And there is the last thing I'm gonna leave you with here is this tool that gets your students to turn their passions and purpose into projects, right? So if you click on here, let's imagine, and we're going to do this really quick. What am I a fan of? I am a fan of music. I like to spend my time learning about coding. I am good at I'm gonna say making hard things look easy. I can only spell correctly. And I want to learn more about what do I want to learn more about? I'm gonna say financial literacy. Oh, good Lord. And what's my purpose? I want to advocate for something that Ken Shelton said last week, which I love. It's called Tequity. I'll learn more about that, and I want to advocate for it. I want to raise awareness about learning. Micro learning. I want to challenge mindsets about ed. I want to help people overcome fear of failing. And what it does, you hit next, hit continue, and it generates this wonderful thing about how might we use this to do this, and you can change these up. And what I love about this is because this is coming from the kids, it's not coming from the teacher. So that's where we get them, right? So ladies and gentlemen, thank you. If you have questions, please put them up on the on the chat. My name is Martin Cisneros. You can get at me at The Tech Prophet in all the socials or at my website, thetechprophet.com. So with that, I hand it over.
Thank you so much, Martine. I wish we had a lot more time with you. I know everybody does, but this little showcase of the tools that you shared was really informative. And again, folks, you'll get access to this presentation in a variety of ways through the EdWeb platform. And also Martine's going to share it out on his Twitter feed. So you'll have access to all of the tools and the links in the presentation. I know there was a lot to digest as we were learning these from Martine. But again, thanks for all of this. And we are going to get to some Q&A here just shortly. I'm going to let Martine take another sip of water while I thank NetRef for bringing Martine to us today, and to let you just know that NetRef, again, is a classroom and device management solution that helps educators keep students focused on learning. Again, lots of distractions, as Martine was showing with those banner ads and pop-ups and things like that, and there are tools within programs to help alleviate that, and NetRef is another one of those tools that can be used to help keep students focused on learning when on devices. And NetRef also provides insights into your EdTech ROI, so you can know what programs to continue to invest in, which you might need to do some PD around, and again, use those tools more effectively and most effectively. So I know the school year is coming to a close, but you can still use NetRef for the rest of this year for free or in summer school. We're offering it up so that you can see how it works, get some insight into how teachers and students are using devices, keep kids focused in these last few weeks of the school or over summer school. So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to visit net-ref.com to learn more about the software program, as well as to take advantage of this free offer. All right, let's go ahead and do some questions, Martine, in the time that we have left. So I think someone may have said this tongue in cheek, but I did want to address it. And the comment was, why do we need teachers anymore with all of these tools?
It's like I always tell people it's like cooking, right? Like cooking is like when I went to college, all I could do was sandwiches and cereal because I didn't learn how to cook, right? Sandwiches and cereal, and then I learned how to cook. But I think about cooking tools, right? I think about when, yes, I am that old, where when we first got a microwave, I remember that as well, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, why does anybody need to cook anymore? Well, you still need to learn what to put in the microwave, right? And my favorite tool, I can say that now, is the wonderful air fryer, right? How many of us got an air fryer during COVID times and we learned how to use it? It's the same thing. No tool. I'm going to tell you, out of my close to 30 years in educational technology, when people ask me, Martin, what is the best gadget or what is the best app? And I can say this honestly, the best app is a well-trained teacher. That is the ultimate app. It's you. Nothing that, not the new iPhone, not the new Mac, not the new, no, it's you. A well-trained teacher, well-trained educator will always be far superior than any app ever. So I'll end with that.
Yes, and as some people are putting in chat, as you had mentioned earlier in your presentation too, of teachers being curators of all of these learning tools and opportunities, and helping students navigate that and learn that. So it isn't about the tools; it is about the wonderful work that teachers do with those tools. So yes, thank you for addressing that. So here's a question that does happen a lot. A lot of these tools die or are sunsetted. So how do you go about choosing tools that are going to have longevity and a good shelf life?
It's like everything else. It's, I'm gonna go back to cooking again, right? I started off with salt and pepper just like everyone else. And now, now when I grill or when I'm making, you add spices and you keep on adding. And sometimes things just, go away for whatever reason. But we live in a world, and like I said, I work, we're here in Silicon Valley. So I'm trying to remember. I think there's something close to like either 85 or it's 185 every 2 weeks. Um, I'm sorry, 185 tools every 2 weeks come to existence.
Oh my
That
gosh.
that's ridiculously amount of tools.
Yeah.
And so what I end up doing is I connect, so I go to EdWeb, I go to the ISTE website. Here in California, I go to q.org, I go to AXA, I go to CITE, right? California IT and Education. I go to all of these and I grow my PLN. That's the other thing that I do is I connect with other educators. And for me, it's like social media is what you make of it, right? And I always tell people, make sure you have your own social media policy. So I'm gonna give you an example. If you become a friend of mine on Facebook, you're gonna see me, all my Star Wars geekiness that I have, my kids, and what I eat. If you're a friend of mine on LinkedIn, we're talking about learning. We're talking about maybe a vendor, right? Maybe that's where I connect with MetRef and talk about how can we use it in our district. And I use different platforms for different things. Twitter, just to communicate about some really cool ideas in enhancing teaching and learning. And on Instagram is a visual representation of my everything. and once again, but what I try to do is I try to connect with people, and I call it digital weeding, by the way. I go to your profile, I look at your last 10 posts, and if I'm inspired by anything on your last 10 posts, you and I become friends. Because this is what it's all about, is I curate that information. So I do a variety of these different things, like I said, and using resources like EdTech Teacher and Common Sense Media are some other ones. But just like I connect with my professional learning network, or my PLF, my professional learning family.
Yeah, that's good advice. And, unfortunately, in the world we live in, we're going to lose some tools that we love, but more will be introduced. And so that is part of having to be a modern learner, is to be able to adopt new tools, let go of the ones that we may be most comfortable with, unfortunately. But always something new and exciting out there. A few nuts and bolts questions on some things that you showed. Was that playback speed option only available with YouTube Premium or on any YouTube access that you might have?
So it's with pretty much anything, but I've seen it now where there's certain videos that, and I don't. This is as far as my knowledge goes, only because I love how Google always introduces tools that we they sometimes bring tools or take away tools that we normally
Yeah.
use. But I see this pretty much everywhere, not only in YouTube, but in all the variety of other tools that we use. Because I did mention like podcasting, and what do I mean by that? You look at the top, whether it's Spotify, whether it's iTunes, whether it's SoundCloud, all of these have that option now.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's becoming a somewhat standard
Mhm.
feature. So again, for accessibility. With the auto draw, which was so cool, we got a couple different questions about this. So, do you think it's applicable or that pre-K age children could use it? And then on the flip side, how have you seen high schoolers react to it?
Oh,
Do they
high
roll? Do they
school,
roll their eyes or do they love it?
they love it. And it's like I said, I wish I had more time, but there's a lot of stuff. Even this guy right here, the music lab. I've done this with students at Stanford University,
Oh wow!
and how we can apply it to science, how we can apply it to art, how we can, and once again, just because. And I bring this from a level of working with special ed students. Um, there is no such thing. There is no grade level for a lot of these tools. It's how you use it in the classroom and how you find ways of using the classroom. That's why these webinars. I've learned so much from these webinars that we've had here on EdWeb, where it's like, oh, I never thought of using it that way, right? And so the answer is yes. High school kids love it because I'm going to tell you, especially like I said before, if you ask that question, is are you a genius? Kids are going to draw everything, right? If you remember the wonderful Sir Ken Robinson, one of my favorite stories of his is, there was this little girl in this classroom, and she was, she never participated, but she loved just, this activity. So the teacher walks over and looks down and says, "Hey, hun, what are you drawing?" And then she looks up at the teacher and she says, "I'm drawing God." And then teacher's eyes got really big and says, "Hun, no one knows what God looks like." And she looks and she said, "They will in a second." So it's that confidence of being curious and not knowing, right? And that's the way I think about tools. Is we not only should we enhance what the students are wanting to do, but part of our job, a large part of our job, is curating. That's where the whole modern learning advisor comes in. You advise the type of tools. Now, how they might use it is completely different. I'm going to give you some homework. Go on YouTube and type in how to use a can opener correctly. Your mind is about to be blown, right? So that's, tools were made to, not only do the stuff that were intended for, but that's the wonderful thing in about the world that we're living now is we allow your students to use the tools in order to solve real world problems by giving them opportunities to use them in a variety of different ways. And as a dad of kids, I'm the father that would go and to Target or Walmart and just let the kids play. And then after 10 minutes, it's like, they're walking off with the letter W from the arts and crafts. And I'm like, what's the letter W for? And my kid says, well, I can, take a picture of it, Dad, and it's going to become train tracks, and then I'm going to turn it into the Star Wars symbol. So once again, it's like it's the letter W in this wood form. And I never, ever, question my kids again. But for those of you who are parents, you understand this, right? Whenever you buy them, whatever you bought them as a kid, what did they play the most with? They played with, of course, with the box that it came with, right? Because That's where the mind went. And that's the same thing with tools, is just give them the opportunity to explore all these different tools. So getting back to the question, do I think it's downgraded for high school? No, actually, I would start there. I would start with AutoDraw. And if you really want to have fun and get your kids, especially in high school, to lose the fear of drawing, try Quick Draw. It's the sister to that. And what this does, it challenges you to draw things, but it only gives you 20 seconds to do it. I'm sorry you just lost an hour of your day when you don't.
In 20-second chunks. Well,
Yeah.
I am sorry that we have reached the end of our time together. This was so much fun and so informative. So thank you for being here with us, Martine. Thanks to everybody who joined us today. And again, a big shout out on Teacher Appreciation Day for all you do. We hope that this presentation gave you some new ideas and some new tools that you can use with your students tomorrow and in the school year to come. So again, wonderful to spend time with all of you today, and good luck with the rest of the school year. And I hope you get a little bit of time off in the summer to recuperate from all you've done. So have a great afternoon, everybody.